Hi, this is Sam Frick, founder and editor at Around the Northeast Corner, and welcome back to a new video on the history of the area high school conferences in the ANEC coverage. Last time we looked at the final years of the NEIAC, and now we're going to look at its successor, the Northeast Hoosier Conference. A lot of folks that follow high school sports probably have a lot of memories with the Northeast Hoosier Conference. I know my parents in particular were a part of the early years of the NHC's history as students at East Snowball High School. And so today we're going to be taking a look at the NHC's history from 1989-90 until the conference disbanded following the 2014-15 school year, to which it would be dissolved in favor of what is now the Northeast 8, which is heading into its 10th season in operation. Let's recap why we're here. So in 1986, October 6, 1986, Belmont, Columbia City, DeKalb, East Snowball, Homestead, and New Haven decided to dissolve the NEIC in favor of forming what would eventually be called the Northeast Hoosier Conference. If you recall from the last video, I had broke down the main reasons why the NEIC dissolved, which included geography being an issue, the imbalance of school sizes between the big schools and the small schools, and then the conference just becoming more unstable. During which, between 1986 and 1987, Angola would leave the NEIC, applying to join the NACC, as well as Churubusco leaving the ACAC to join Angola in the NECC. And then shortly thereafter, you have Columbia City and Norwell taking place of Bluffton and South Adams, who went to Carol Norwell's former tenant in the ACAC. Again, 1987, Carol Norwell applied to join the new conference and was later unanimously approved. Both of these schools had left the ACAC in pretty good hands. Both schools had a lot of history of success in the Allen County athletic conferences, and both schools slowly but surely grew as school institutions towards the latter half of the 1980s, going into the 90s. This growth would later receive tremendous amount of payoff as both schools would have their moments of success in the Northeast Hoosier Conference. The conference began operations for the 1989-90 school year. And so now your members included Belmont, Carroll, Columbia City, DeKalb, East Snowball, Homestead, New Haven, and Norwell. And as a matter of fact, this is the only time you would ever see any change with this conference, as these same 8 schools played in this conference until it dissolved in 2015. Rarely do you ever see that today, but it's one of the very few times ever that a conference never had any other changes other than its first year. So let's take a look at the first year of the NHC's history. In the fall, East Snowball Boys Cross Country won the first of 2 straight conference titles. That gave East Snowball 4 combined conference championships in the previous 5 seasons, both of which came from the NEIAC in 86 and 1987. Norwell, a new member of this conference, won the first girls cross country title, last coming in 1985 as a member of the ACAC. Norwell became the first boys and girls cross country NHC teams to win a sectional and regional. Both schools repeated from 1988 as a member of the ACAC, and both won their first regional title since the fall of 1985. East Snowball won the conference's first girls golf title for the conference's history, as well as the meet title. Overall, this was their 3rd straight title, dating back to the NEIC's last years of their existence. The first NHC boys tennis title went to Homestead. As you will find out, again, Homestead continues to dominate tennis entering the NHC's tenure. Continuing with the fall, 1989 would be a continuation of DeKalb's success in girls volleyball, as well as football. DeKalb won the first football championship, a repeat from the previous season. DeKalb became the first NHC football team to win a sectional with a 24-0 win at Columbia City. That season ended in a 28-17 loss at Harrison, West Lafayette, the very next week. For girls volleyball, as I mentioned, DeKalb repeated from last season, but this time in a share with Homestead, to which Homestead defeated DeKalb in the regular season to claim a share of the conference championship. That same fall, Belmont became the first conference girls volleyball team to win a sectional and regional, and this will be a common occurrence for the Belmont Braves. Going into the winter season in 1990, after 19 consecutive championships won by Belmont, East Noble snapped the streak by winning the first, and to this day, only Conference Boys Wrestling Championship. Again, this is the only time in which Belmont did. This would be the only time until Carroll would win their first conference championship in 2010, I believe, to which Belmont did not win a conference championship in wrestling. In basketball, the conference tournament continued to be an occurrence, and this conference tournament remained hosted by the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum for the championship games. Homestead boys, the DeKalb girls won the first NHC basketball tournaments. DeKalb defeated Columbia City 45-41, the girls section. Homestead defeated East Noble 61-58. Girls gymnastics was also a success for Homestead as they scored 96 points to beat out DeKalb in the NHC girls gymnastics meet. One thing to note briefly with Homestead, girls gymnastics will continue to be dominated by Homestead, and again, with gymnastics, as you will find out, historically, gymnastics, swimming, those are sports that Homestead tend to dominate and still dominate to this day. In wrestling, in 1990, East Noble became the first NHC boys wrestling program to win a sectional. Homestead's Mark Bruner, as you see in the picture, won the 160-pound state bracket in a 7-5 decision over Chesterton's Ryan Jackson. Staying with the winter of 1990, Belmont won the first ever NHC girls basketball title, their first since 1980. Belmont and East Noble shared the first NHC boys basketball title. Previously, Belmont had won 4 of the last 5 NEIC titles, and this is an error with this point here, because actually, as I found out with the NEIC, East Noble actually shared that last conference championship with Belmont in 1989. That was an error from the last video. So actually, East Noble repeated as conference champions in 1990 after sharing the conference with Belmont the previous season. So both teams shared the conference once again, this time in the NHC. Columbia City became the first NHC girls basketball team to win a sectional and later won a regional. DeKalb and East Noble became the first NHC programs to win a boys basketball sectional. In the spring season, Belmont and DeKalb shared the first NHC boys golf title. Carroll won the inaugural meet. The first girls tennis conference championship went to Homestead, with Homestead boys and Columbia City girls winning the inaugural conference track meets. Homestead boys and Columbia City girls became the first NHC track programs to win a sectional. Staying with the spring of 1990, the first softball championship came in a share between Belmont and East Noble. As a matter of fact, Belmont, in the previous season in 1989, made it all the way to the state championship game, losing 4-0 to Twin Lakes. So success for Belmont softball came early and often throughout the late 80s and early 90s. The first baseball championship came in a share between Carroll and New Haven. The first softball teams to win a sectional were East Noble and New Haven. East Noble and Homestead became the first baseball teams to win a sectional, with East Noble winning a regional in that same postseason. I believe Ben Van Ryan was still playing for East Noble by this point. He would later become a first-round draft pick in the supplemental round to the Montreal Expos, and would find himself bouncing around multiple major league organizations before calling it quits towards the end of the 90s. In track, As I mentioned from the last video, Homestead's Greg Hart won his third straight discus meet at 216 feet and 9 inches. He also won the shot put state meet at 63 feet and 1.5 inches. He was also the Mental Attitude Award recipient and a national champion. So he found a lot of success both with Homestead and on the national spotlight. You're going to see this quite often with Homestead. Jumping ahead to 1991-92 season, Columbia City girls basketball repeated as conference champions. And then in the spring of 92, Columbia City New Haven became the first softball teams to win a regional title, with New Haven winning the conference championship, I believe, in 1992. The Cowgirls cross country recorded the first repeated champion with their fourth straight conference title. And in the fall of 94, the NHC fielded soccer for the first time, Homestead winning the first of 8 consecutive conference championships. And then in 1994, the winter of 1994, Carroll's Chad Hedges placed second in the heavyweight to Mount Vernon's Andy Schneider, 9-3. Going back to the winter of 1993, Homestead's Robert Roush was the Mental Attitude Award recipient for swimming. Greg Ferkel won that same award for tennis, representing Homestead. Jumping ahead to the winter of 1994, the Belmont Braves once again win another state championship, their third and final state championship, as they defeated Castle 89-45. During that run to a state championship in 1993, actually, Belmont's Tim Myers, the current head wrestling coach, won the 119-pound state bracket, defeating Madison's Michael Galbraith 3-2. The next year, Myers, undefeated on that season, repeated as state champions, this time in the 130-pound bracket, 6-2 winner over Bryson Chandler of Portage. Jared West, on the 135-pound bracket, placed second as a member representing Belmont, falling to Delta's Eric Kirchhoff by the score of 6-5. Jumping ahead to the fall of 1994, in addition to Belmont winning their fifth straight conference volleyball title, Carroll shared that title for their first conference championship since 1988 as a member of the ACAC. Carroll became the first NHC boys soccer program to win a sectional on their way to a berth to the state finals. Homestead's Tom Schneider won the Mental Attitude Award representing tennis. Last time we talked about the California Football State Championship, and that success will continue into the 1994 season as they went 13-1 in the season, undefeated in conference play. In sectional play, they won 21-7 at Plymouth. Regional play saw them dominate Muncie South 38-7. Semi-state shutout Lowell 21-zip before falling in the state finals at the Hoosier Dome 35-0 to East Central. By the way, Brad Weber won the Mental Attitude Award representing the Calb football. On January 14th, 1995, on a sad note, the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum hosted its last ever NHC tournament games. On the girls' side, Columbia City defeated DeKalb 57-54. On the boys' end, New Haven defeated East Noble 52-42, but East Noble would eventually find revenge as they would go on to win their third straight conference title in boys basketball that same season. As you'll soon find out with the NHC tournament, they will spend its latter years in the NHC tournament being hosted by select campuses, and unfortunately, as you will find out, as you already know probably, the conference tournament no longer exists today in the NE8, and unfortunately, after this point in 1995, this tournament would not last. Staying with the winter of 1995, Belmont's Tim Myers once again going for another state championship, but that feat of winning 3 straight state titles came up just short. He placed second in the 134-pound bracket, falling to Hanover Central's Greg Larson 7-4. Belmont as a team finished in a tie for second with 60 points, trailing Newcastle, as well as Evansville Modern Day, who won the state championship as a team with 82 points. This state finals would go through some different forms over the course of several years until it went back to the modern format of the state finals roughly 12 or 13 years ago. Homestead's Brock Smith won the 800-meter state meet in track with a time of 1:52.47. Carroll's Brian Yeager became the fourth to last male athlete to ever win the 300-meter low hurdle state meet at 37.39 seconds. This event no longer exists today in the state finals. In the winter of 1996, Belmont's Jason Baker was named 125-pound state champion with a 7-6 win over modern day's Scott Schaefer. Sorry for the typo there. In that same state finals, Belmont's TJ Hayes won the 152-pound bracket in a 12-6 decision over Andrew Poe of South Bend Clay. Rest in peace to South Bend Clay, as the school just recently closed after this past school year, 2023-2024. In 1996, the spring of 96, DeKalb became the first NHC softball program to have a repeat champion by winning 4 straight from 1993 to 1996. As you will soon find out with DeKalb, they're going to have a lot of success in softball from the 1990s through the middle portion of the 2000s. In the spring of 96, Homestead's Candace Crawford won the discus state meet at 145 feet and 5 inches. But the star of that state finals was none other than the lady you see on the screen. Amy Yoder Begley won her third straight 3,200 meter state meet in 96. In 1994, she won her first one. As you can see the time on the screen, she won again in 95 and then 96 for the 3,200. Amy would go on to be the Mental Attitude Award in that 1996 state finals for track and fields. DeKalb won the boys 3,200 at 7 minutes and 53 seconds, and Norwell's Kurt Crick won the shot put state meet at 64 feet and 6.25 inches. Staying with the fall of 1996, the NHC fielded girls soccer for the first time, with Homestead winning the first of 8 straight conference titles. They also won the first of 9 straight sectionals in 95. They reached the state finals in that same fall of 96. DeKalb won their 5th straight football conference title in 1996. And then Homestead's Raju Raval won the Mental Attitude Award for boys tennis. In the spring of 1997, Carroll became the first conference baseball program to win 3 straight conference titles. They would go on to complete a string of 5 conference titles throughout the 1990s. And we will later find out with Carroll, they're going to continue that success into the new millennium. Homestead's Sasha Cooperman won the Mental Attitude Award for girls tennis. And then in 1998, the winner of 98, Justin Hoggett, Hogggatt, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, for swimming, and Rick Phillip of tennis won the Mental Attitude Award for Homestead for each sport. Hoggett for swimming, Phillip for tennis. By 1998, Homestead is going to have a run that Homestead fans still remember to this day. They went 14-1 on the season, undefeated in conference play. In sectionals, they defeated Northup 20-7. Regionals defeated Carmel at Homestead again, 27-3. Semi-state, they edged off a very good Penn program, 9-7. But in the state finals in Class 5A, once again still hosted by the RCA Dome at this point, they lost 35-14 to Bloomington South. The Mental Attitude Award in that state finals went to Manly Glick, representing Homestead. By the winter of 1999, Homestead girls basketball earned a three-peat, as Homestead would ascend as a powerhouse in girls basketball as they reach the new millennium. And by the time they get to the 2010s, you're going to see Homestead winning this conference quite a bit. By the way, in that same year in 1999, East Noble's Phil Yoder won the 3,200 track state finals at 9 minutes and 6.69 seconds. Belmont won an NHC volleyball record 10th straight conference title. Going back to the wrestling stage in that same year, Belmont's Ben Farrow won the Mental Attitude Award. Staying with 1999, Carroll reaches the state finals, as by this point you had a state semifinals format followed by the state finals. during this point in the history of high school baseball in Indiana. On the season, they went 20-14. They were only 2-5 in conference play. They struggled in the NHC during that time in 1999, but as you're going to find out, this team got red hot in the postseason. In the Carroll Sectional, they dominated Peru 10-0. In the Concordia Regional, shut out Bishop Dwayne 10-0. And then in semi-state, hosted by Concordia, they dominated Kankakee Valley and edged off Plymouth to reach the state finals. In the state finals at Victory Field, they were shut out by Madison 10-0. In the fall of 1999, Norwell makes their first of 2 state finals appearances in football. Norwell had been building up to this point as becoming a powerhouse in football, and finally in 1999, they put it all together for this program. They went 13-2 in the season, 6-1 in conference play. I believe Homestead had won that conference that season. In sectional play, they dominated McConaughey 38-7. In regionals, edged off a good Northwood program 35-27. And then in semi-state at Mishawaka Marion, they edged off a good Knights program 19-18 to reach their first ever state finals. Once again, still hosted by the RCA Dome, but the 3A state finals would go to Indianapolis Roncalli in a 24-14 defeat at the hands of Roncalli. Nicholas Warden, however, did win the Mental Attitude Award for the Norwell Knights. In the winter of 2000, it would mark the end of an era for NHC basketball as the conference completed its final boys and girls basketball tournaments, which were hosted by New Haven. On the girls section, which started first, DeKalb defeated East Noble 61-59, and then the last ever basketball tournament championship went to Homestead in a 68-57 victory over the host New Haven. The tournament format for this sport was eliminated following that season, never to be used again even to this day in the Northeast state. In that same year, in the winter of 2000, Columbia City, a team that had dominated throughout the 80s and 90s, couldn't get a lot of deep runs in that state tournament, whether it was falling into the hands of Huntington North or losing to Warsaw. Columbia City finally got to the state finals in 99-2000. They went 20-6, 5-2 in conference play. In the sectional hosted by Columbia City, they defeated Concordia 62-52 to win that sectional. They also hosted the regional by defeating a very talented Wawasee team 55-48. I believe Shanna Zolman might have been still playing for Wawasee at that point during her early years in high school. So kind of worthy of note there from the Wawasee team, as Shanna Zolman would go on to become the highest scoring player at the time in IHSA history, until this girl by the name of Jackie Young would surpass her roughly 10 years later. In the semi-state hosted by Peru, they defeated Frankton and Griffith to win their first and only semi-state championship, in which the 3A state finals were hosted by Hinkle Fieldhouse. That is the last ever girls basketball state finals hosted by the Hinkle Fieldhouse. They were defeated by a talented Cathedral team 58-44. Unfortunately, Connie Myers was not 100% in that state finals as she suffered an injury during the semi-state. Myers would go on to become the highest scoring player in the history of the Columbia City girls basketball program. And on a sad note for the program, they still have not made it past sectionals since this year, as they hope to finally overcome those demons this coming season as now a member of Class 3A. Staying with the winter of 2000, Belmont's John Sheets won the 103-pound state bracket with a 4-1 decision over Goshen's Gerardo Quirbez. Hope I'm saying it right. The NHC recorded its only 4-team share in softball, with Belmont, Columbia City, DeKalb, and Homestead all claiming a piece of that conference championship. Homestead's Ellen Alkire won the 400-meter state track meet at 56.76 seconds. Carroll's Chris Treadway became the second ever state champion in the 300-meter intermediate hurdles at a time of 37.68 seconds. East Noble's Sarah Sparks was named the Mental Attitude Award winner for girls golf. Speaking of East Snowball, in the fall of 2000, after years upon years of struggles, the East Snowball Knights finally get it done in the fall of 2000 under Coach Abel, who is now coaching at, I believe, Triton Central, if I recall. Very good program down there near the Indianapolis area. But East Snowball in the season went 14-1. They went 6-1 in conference play. I believe this was still Homestead by this point that won the conference. And in sectionals, they dominated Wayne 35-7. In regionals, a team that had been a nemesis to East Snowball in the postseason, Goshen, a team that won some championships in the playoffs in football in the past. East Snowball finally overcame those demons with a 21-14 win at Goshen. In semi-state in Kendallville, they dominated Plymouth 35-7. And then the state finals hosted by the RCA Dome. East Snowball won their only state championship in football in Class 4A, defeating Plainfield 28-7. In the spring of 2001, Homestead Girls Track achieved an NHC record 10th straight conference title. Carroll Boys Track won an NHC Best 7th straight conference title. DeKalb's Taylor Trish won the District State meet at 182 feet and 3 inches. Columbia City Baseball, despite only posting a 13-16 record, reached the 3A state semifinals. That was the format they went by this point, losing 6-4 at the hands of Griffith. In the fall of 2001, the Cowboys cross country completed their 5th consecutive conference title, the first repeated champion since 1990, East Snowball. Kayla Van Ort, representing the Cal, placed second individually in the state meet at 15 minutes and 35.4 seconds, falling by less than a full second to reigning state champion Lawrence North's Neff Uria. Neff won his second consecutive state finals meet in the fall of 2001. Van Ort was named the Mental Attitude Award winner for cross country, representing the Barons. Staying with the fall of 2001, Homestead would reach the state finals, going 23-1 on the season, undefeated in conference. Homestead by this point was dominating soccer on both the boys and girls. In sectionals hosted by Canterbury, they edged off Fort Wayne Bishop Lewis 3-1. Homestead would host the regional, dominating conference rival Norwell 9-0. In the semi-state hosted by Snyder, they edged off West Lafayette and Noblesville by 2-1 scores to reach the state finals. Remember, this is a single-class tournament by this point in soccer, so you're playing every type of competition possible by this point. In the state semifinals hosted by Kuntz Stadium, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, Homestead edged off Chesterton, who was a state runner-up last season at that point, 2-1 over Chesterton. In the championship game, they were shut out 1-0 to Carmel. Worthy of note, Homestead did play Carmel in the regular season. They lost to Carmel by that same score in the regular season. In the spring of 2002, Belmont would reach the state finals, representing the boys in Decatur. On the season, they went 23-8 and a competitive 4-3 in the NHC. In the Peru sectional, they defeated the hosts 8-1. In the New Haven regional, Belmont dominated, shutting out Elmhurst and defeating Northridge to winning the New Haven regional and reaching the state finals. In the state semifinals hosted by Noblesville, they dominated Delta 15-2, but in the ultimate game at Victory Field, hosted by which is the home of the Indianapolis Indians, they were shut out by Vincennes Lincoln 4-0. Staying with 2002, but this time in the fall, the conference volleyball championship was shared between Belmont and Norwell. East Snowball's Andy Yo placed second in the 125-pound bracket, falling to East Chicago Central's Henter Mendez 9-7. That was the winter, so I'm going backwards just a little bit here. But going back to the fall of 2002, Homestead recorded their 6th straight football conference championship. And then in the winter of 2003, New Haven's Zach Dahmer placed second in the 215-pound bracket, falling to Franklin Central's Jake O'Brien 11-4. In that state finals, John Sheets of Belmont won the Mental Attitude Award. This winter would prove to be a memorable one for the folks in Waterloo and DeKalb County, as the DeKalb Barons in 2003 reached the state finals through hard work, grit, and tough defense. On the season, they went 26-2, 6-1 in conference play, playing a variety of different competition, and basically being in essentially every game that season. In the sectional hosted by Warsaw, they avenged their loss to Columbia City in the regular season by defeating them in double overtime, 55-49. In the regional hosted by Marion, they defeated Northrop and Muncie Central to win the Marion Regional. And then the semi-state hosted by Lafayette Jet, they defeated Merrillville 66-51, but they would meet their match in the state finals hosted by Conseco Fieldhouse, now known as Gaybridge Fieldhouse, as a very talented Pike team with some NBA talent won that state championship by the score of 65-52, but this was a much closer game than what the score told you. Alex Koch won the Mental Attitude Award for DeKalb, as he, as well as a guy by the name of Liddell, would lead DeKalb in scoring that season. In the spring of 2003, Norwell reaches the ultimate pinnacle and wins it all for the first of 3 state championships. That season, they were 23-11, 4-3 in conference play. In the sectional hosted by Blackford, they shut out Belmont, who went to state finals last season by that point, 4-0. At the New Haven Regional, they defeated the host 1-0 and Concordia 6-3 to win the regional to reach the state finals. Victory Field hosted both games that year. In the 3A state semifinals, they dominate Andrea 9-3. And then the state finals, they defeated New Palestine in a classic 8 innings, 3-1, thanks to a walk-off 2-run home run by Jason Shortkin in the bottom of the 8th inning to reach championship glory. Jacob Redenberg won the Mental Attitude Award. By the way, Kelby Waybright, who's the current athletic director at Norwell, he was the head baseball coach during this time for that successful Norwell baseball team. In the fall of 2003, the NHC would see more familiarity representing the conference in the state finals as East Noble returned to the state finals. On the season, they went 14-1, undefeated in conference play. This was a team coached by Chris DePue, a team that was seen as kind of overlooked. They were underdogs for many of the games in the postseason, and it was a tough team. It was a tough team to play against, and East Noble played their best each and every single game until the final buzzer sounded. In the sectional, they defeated Plymouth 28-14. In the regional, at a very intimidating Lowell, East Noble, the underdog, defeated Lowell 20-13. And then still the underdogs in semi-state, East Noble upset Bishop Dwenger 42-28 to reach the state finals. Unfortunately, in this state finals at the RCM Dome, they were shut out by a very talented Indianapolis Roncalli team, 17-0, despite the fact Jeff Wedding won the Mental Attitude Award. He was the quarterback for East Noble, became one of the most successful quarterbacks in the history of East Noble. And as I mentioned earlier, Chris DePue would go on to become a very successful football coach through 2011 at East Noble, and would eventually become, to this day, the AD and head football coach at his hometown, Garrett. In 2004, Columbia City shared the wrestling championship with Belmont, their first and only conference wrestling championship. In boys basketball, Columbia City won their 3rd consecutive conference title. We will talk about Columbia City in a matter of moments. In wrestling, Belmont's Matt Irwin placed 2nd in the 125-pound bracket, falling to Lawrence North's Reese Humphrey 7-2. In the spring of 2004, DeKalb softball earned a three-peat, completing a run of 9 conference titles in a span of 11 years. But going back to the winter of 2004, Columbia City boys basketball, coached by Chris Benedict, would make a run to the state finals. But first, we need to talk about the Belmont Braves, coached by Coach Busick, a very well-known coach in the state of Indiana who is still coaching today. On the season, the Braves went 22-5, 6-1 in the NHC. In the New Haven sectional, they defeated Leo 52-37. In the regional hosted by Northwood, they defeated Jay County and edging off a talented Elmhurst team in overtime to win the regional. And then in semi-state hosted by Lafayette Jeff, they defeated Western 58-46, but fell in the 3A state finals at the hands of Evansville Mater Dei 63-45 in Class 3A. Now we go to Columbia City. They would reach the state finals under Coach Chris Benedict. And on the season, they went 25-4. They won the NHC in the regular season. In the sectional hosted by Warsaw, they avenged their loss from the previous season to East Snowball by winning 42-40. Actually, it was to DeKalb the previous year, but no matter. Columbia City avenged the previous season by beating East Snowball 42-40 to win the sectional. And then in the Marion Regional, they defeated Lafayette Jeff and Southside by double figures to reach semi-state. Once again hosted by Lafayette Jeff, but this time in a close contest, 39-34 over Valparaiso. But just like Belmont, Columbia City also met their fate in the state finals in Class 4A. They were dominated by Lawrence North 50-29. This was a Lawrence North team. Again, lots of really high-profile talent on that Lawrence North team. Some talent that would eventually find themselves playing professional basketball. In the spring of 2003, Norwell softball, 1911 that season, reached their first state finals appearance, losing to eventual 2A state champion Gibson Southern 4-1. Norwell softball would not go this far in the state tournament until just this past spring, when Norwell won their first regional since that season, although the 2024 Norwell Lady Knights did not reach the state finals, unlike the 03 team did. In 2004, in that next spring, Belmont softball, 19-9 that season, reached their third state finals appearance, falling to West Lafayette in the semifinals, 5-1. That was in Class 3A. In Class 4A, DeKalb went 29-2 that season. They reached their first state finals appearance, falling 1-0 in the semifinals to eventual 4A state champions Lake Central. In the winter of 2005, Carroll girls basketball won their fifth straight NHC title in a three-team share with Columbia City and DeKalb. Jumping ahead to 2006, Belmont's Matt Irwin won the 135-pound state championship with a 12-5 decision over Hobart's Brennan Cosgrove. In that same state finals, Columbia City's Bryant Deutsch, or I don't remember if I said it right, but whatever, he placed second in the 160-pound bracket, falling to Bloomington South's Paul Young 9-4. Homestead's Cameron Huffman, won the Mental Attitude Award for tennis. In the spring of 2006, Norwell returned to the state finals. On the season, they went 29-2, NHC champions in baseball. They won the Elmhurst sectional by dominating Peru. In the Norwell regional, they edged off conference rival New Haven 3-2. And then the semi-state hosted by Plymouth, they shut out Hammond Clark and dominated West Lafayette to reach the state finals, to which they lost a heartbreaker at Victory Field, 13-12 to Jasper. And it's worthy of note here because Norwell actually led for the majority of this game. Norwell led 11-6 in the top of the fifth, led 12-10 with 2 outs in the last of the seventh, but a walk-off single by Josh Sermersheim led to Jasper winning the state championship. And this would be the start of Norwell eventually coming back the next year and winning it all. In the fall of 2006, Norwell continues their success in sports by reaching their second and most recent state finals in football. On the season, they went 14-1, undefeated in conference play. In sectionals, they dominated Concordia 49-14. In regionals, they won 49-20 at New Prairie. And then in semi-state at Norwell, they dominated Griffith 35-7 to reach the state finals. This time at Lucas Oil Stadium. I believe Norwell was one of the very first to ever play at Lucas Oil Stadium for the state championship. But unfortunately, the offense could not muster enough offense as they fell to Indianapolis Bishop Chatard 7-0. Chatard would go on to have a dominant run of successive football that continues to this day. Chandler Harnish, very, very familiar name for you Norwell fans out there. He won the Mental Attitude Award. He would go on to have a successful college football career. He would end up playing a little bit of professional football. I believe he was drafted by the Indianapolis Colts in the last overall pick in the draft. And Harnish was just recently inducted into the Hall of Fame for Northeast Indiana football. So kind of a nice note there. But that's going to do it for part 1 of the history of the NHC. We still got about 9 years to go with this conference, so we're going to stop here. And in our next video, we'll talk about the last 9 years of the history of the Northeast Hoosier Conference. Until next time, this is Sam Fritz saying so long. Hi, this is Sam Frick. Welcome back to another episode talking about the history of the Northeast 8. But we're almost there. We're going to be talking about the Northeast Hoosier Conference first. And last we talked about 2006 being the year of Norwell. Norwell baseball made it to the state finals. They fell in the state finals for a bit of their second state championship, falling to Jasper in come from behind fashion. And then in football, Norwell came up just short of an undefeated season, falling to Bishop Chatard. So now let's move forward and talking about the remaining years of the NHC. Beginning with 2007. The winter of 2007 saw East Noble's Taylor Marsh placing second in the 119-pound bracket, falling to Whiteland's Matthew Fields 3-0. In 2008, East Noble's Derek Shire placed second in the 215-pound bracket, falling to Leo's Justin Woods 9-2. We will talk about Justin Woods when we discuss the ACAC. In 2009, Marsh, having lost in the state finals in 2007 in terms of a second place finish, Marsh would win it all in 2009, winning the 135-pound state bracket with a 4-3 decision over Brown County's Ricky. Marsh would go on to win the Mental Attitude Award in that 2009 season. Belmont's Billy Baker was crowned the 215-pound state champion with a 4-1 decision over Mishawaka's Christian Lentz. So the NHC was very well represented during the mid-2000s for wrestling. In the spring, track becomes successful for the NHC, and more specifically with Homestead. Jonathan Hall won the long jump state meet at 16 feet. That was the outdoor state finals. In the spring of 2007, during the early portion of the season, Hunter Hall won the indoor state pole vault meet. But in the outdoor state finals that same year, Homestead's Katie Veith won her third straight pole vault meet. You can see the scores on the slide. Katie would go on to have a professional career in pole vaults. Now we jump ahead to the spring of 2007. The Norwell Knights, having lost a heartbreaker the previous season, well, you're going to find out that this team, well, they didn't lose sweat. They won every game that season. They were undefeated on the season, undefeated in conference, undefeated, period. It's still to this day one of the most memorable and most dominant teams to ever represent Northeast Indiana. In sectionals hosted by Peru, they defeated Tippy Valley 9-3. In the regional hosted by Bishop Luers, home field advantage did not matter. Norwell dominated Luers 12-0. In semi-state hosted by Plymouth, they dominated Southside in 5 innings. South Bend St. Joseph, 11-0 5 innings, and then defeated Andrean 4-1. And then the state finals hosted by Victory Field, Norwell defeated Evansville Mater Dei 5-0 to win their second state championship. Cray Williams won the Mental Attitude Award. Sticking with 2007, Carroll's James Martin, just a freshman that season, placed second individual in the cross-country state meet, falling to LaPorte's Michael Fout. James recorded time of 15 minutes and 56.6 seconds. In the spring of 2008, Belmont softball reached the state semifinals, posting a 26-8 record, but fell 1-0 in 10 innings to New Palestine. Now, let's talk about this Belmont team. Belmont Braves in 2007. They built up years of success going into that 2007 season. Craig Kroll, who went to Belmont High School, helped them reach the state finals in 2005 and came up short in the state semifinals. On the season for Belmont, they went 33-5, undefeated in conference play. As I mentioned earlier, they reached the state finals in 2005. They were swept by Brebeuf Jesuits in the semifinals. In the sectional hosted by Elmhurst, they swept Norwell. At the Wawasee Regional, they swept Delta and Concordia. In the state semifinals, hosted by Muncie Central, they defeated Brebeuf Jesuit in 4 sets, and they would go on to win the whole thing at Worthen Arena, hosted by Ball State. They swept Mishawaka Marion. Belmont's last actual loss, came on September 22nd, 2007. They lost 2-0 to Muncie Burrs in a tournament. Belmont responded by winning their final 16 matches and had a set record of 48-1. That's how good Belmont was in 2007. And don't worry, they're going to continue their success at a later point. In the spring of 2008, Homestead would reach the state finals in baseball. They went 26-6 on the season, 6-1 in conference play. They defeated Jade County 4-0 at Huntington North to win the sectional. In the regional hosted by Carroll, the Spartans would defeat their rivals 6-4. In the semi-state hosted by Lafayette Jeff, they defeated Penn and Crown Point by 7-4 scores to reach the state finals hosted by Victory Field. They would fall to Decatur Central 7-3. Ryan Triglaff, Triglaff, won the Mental Attitude Award for baseball representing the Spartans. In 2008, Carroll became the only NHC girls track team to win a team regional. In that fall, Carroll boys cross country placed second in the state meet, falling to Carmel 100-110, 100 being the lower score and the winning score. Now we get to the Belmont Braves in the fall of 2008, and this was a team destined for greatness in the fall of 2008. On the season, they went 14-1, 6-1 in conference play. In the sectional, they dominated Leo on the road 41-7. In regionals, they won that regional by edging off Yorktown 25-21. And then in semi-state hosted by the Braves, they defeated Northwood 35-21. And they would bring that success into Lucas Oil Stadium, to which they defeated Evansville Memorial 28-14 to win their first and only football state championship in the history of the Belmont Braves. This is now going on 16 years, nearly 16 years, since Belmont last won a football state championship. Sticking with the latter portion of the 2000s, this time the fall of 2009, Homestead would reach the state finals once again. They went 18-5-1, 6-1 in conference play. In their own sectional, they dominated conference rival Columbia City 6-0. In the regional hosted by Carroll, they edged off Southside and Carroll by 1 goal each to win the regional. In the semi-state hosted by Snyder, they defeated Northridge in penalty kicks 2-1 and edged off Warsaw 1-0 to reach the state finals hosted by Kuntz Stadium at this point. In the semifinals, they defeated Columbus North 4-1, but in the championship game, lost 3-1 to Zionsville. Now we get to the Carroll portion of this slide, and Carroll would win back-to-back state championships in baseball. In 2010, Carroll went 26-6, 5-2 in the NHC. It was a 3-team share with them, New Haven, and Norwell. In the Carroll sectional, they defeated Snyder 7-6. In the Pendleton Heights regional, they defeated Connorsville 10-0 and Kokomo 5-4. And then the semi-state hosted by South Bend Clay, they shut out Munster 3-0. In the state finals hosted by Victory Field, they defeated Indianapolis Cathedral in a pitcher's duel, 1-0 in 9 innings, to which Ross O'Neill won the Mental Attitude Award. The next year in 2011, they were even better. 32-2, they won the NHC outright. In the road to state finals, they defeated the host DeKalb 7-5 to win the sectional. In the Pendleton Heights regional, again, they defeated Huntington North 6-5 and Richmond 14-4 to win the regional. And then the semi-state hosted by South Bend Clay defeated Crown Point 9-2, reaching Victory Field and the state finals once again, to which they defeated Indianapolis Cathedral by the score of 5-3. The dominance of state championship success would continue into volleyball, and the 2010 Belmont Braves would win another state championship in the 2010 campaign. On the season, they were 35-4. They won the conference. In the Wayne sectional, they swept Norwell. In the Belmont regional, swept Western. In the Plymouth semi-state, they swept Northwood in the semifinals and then defeated powerhouse Yorktown in 4 sets to reach the state finals. Hosted by Ball State's Worthen Arena, and they swept Brebeuf Jesuits 3 straight to win their second and most recent state championship. Don't worry, Belmont will continue their runs to the state finals once they get into the Northeast 8. Staying with 2010, Carroll's Brock Norton won the 135-pound state bracket with a 3-1 decision over Anderson Highlands' Mason Berriman. 2011, Belmont's 20-year NHC wrestling title streak was snapped by Carroll, and Carroll's going to go on to have some success in wrestling. As far as East Snowball is concerned, Nathan Mueller won the 3,200-meter intermediate hurdles. I apologize, that is for track and field. I'm not sure what I was thinking there, but Nathan Mueller did win a state finals meet in intermediate hurdles. In the winter of 2010, Norwell reaches the state finals, this time for boys basketball. In the season, they were 24-2, 6-1 in conference play. I believe Jared Park, no, not Jared Park, but maybe, I think it was Van Meter was still playing for Norwell at this point. So I think Van Meter might have been playing for the Norwell Knights at that point. In the sectional hosted by Norwell, they dominated Whitko by 30 points. In the Blatchford Regional, they defeated Muncie Central and then Northwood to win the regional at Blatchford. And then the semi-state hosted by Huntington North, they edged off Mishawaka Marion 76-67 to reach the state finals, hosted by Baker's Life Fieldhouse, but it's still Gainbridge Fieldhouse. They fell to Darren Catholic 64-48, and Garrett Butcher won the Mental Attitude Award representing Norwell. In the spring of 2012, DeKalb girls track would find success in the state tournament. They placed 10th in the state finals, which they were mainly led by Rachel Dinkoff, won the discus state meet at 143 feet and 7 inches. Rachel's going to have a very successful career at the collegiate level, representing the Power 5, representing Auburn for track and field, and then she would go on to find international recognition at the Olympics. I believe she was in the Tokyo Olympics just 4 years ago. So it's kind of nice to see that, with seeing some local kids, or local individuals, I should say, reaching the state finals. Carroll won the first of 2 straight boys 3,200-meter relays. You can see the times in the slide. Homestead, in that fall of 2012, won an NHC football record 6th consecutive conference championship. Also in the fall of 2012, Carroll boys cross country would place as a state runner-up. They were second in the state meet, falling to Carmel 93-116. Carroll would eventually win a team state championship 4 years later as an independent with a 71-117 win over Carmel. And then girls cross country would have 2 more second place finishes after their exit out of the NHC. In 2013, East Noble's Garrett Pepple placed second in the 106-pound bracket, falling to New Palestine's Chris Red 4-0. Carroll's Riley Lefevre placed second in the 170-pound bracket, falling to Merrillville's Bobby Stevenson in a close 5-4 score. In baseball, Carroll completed their 5th consecutive conference championship, Carroll having already won 2 state championships by this point and continuing their success afterwards. Homestead's Ari Nelson, depending on what the actual pronunciation is, she won the long jump state meet at 19 feet and 7.75 inches. Did I mention Norwell is going to go back to the state finals? Well, now you hear it. Norwell in 2013, they make it to the state finals of baseball, and once again, for the third and final time, Norwell wins it all. On the season, they were 33-3, say that fast. They went 6-1 in conference play. In the Belmont sectional, they defeated Eastburg 8-1. Belmont also hosting the regional, but Norwell continues their success from there. They defeated Delta 8-4, and then edged off Northwood in a classic 9-8 score in 8 innings to win the regional. In semi-state, hosted by Kokomo, they defeated Western 5-2, and then the state finals, hosted by Victory Field, defeated Jasper by the score of 2-1. Jared Parker, who led Norwell to the state championship in 2007, Van Meter would be a part of Norwell winning that state championship. And for those that don't know, we're talking about Josh Van Meter that played for the Norwell Knights, and having his run of success with Norwell as well as the team's run, they win their third and final state championship. So now we get to the hard part of this section, and that's talking about the final years of the NHC. We begin with golf, and by this point in golf, Carroll would repeat as girls golf champions. They won the last conference meet in 2014, the fall of 2014. In the spring of 2015, Columbia City Homestead shared the boys' title, but Columbia City won the final meet with a dramatic finish over Homestead. That was their first meet title since 1992. In total, for the boys, Homestead won it 10 times. For the girls' golf team, Homestead won 11, Eastern won it 7 times, Carroll won it 6 times. In cross country, Carroll boys won the final 5 NHC cross country meets from 2010 to 14. That includes a streak of 7 titles in 9 years. Carroll girls won the final meet in 2014. They capped off a streak of 11 titles in 12 years. In total for the boys, Carroll won it 9 times, Carroll 8. And on the girls' side, Carroll won it 12 championships for cross country. Soccer, and by this point, the IHSAA would have a multi-class state tournament, and a lot of things would change for the sport of soccer. In 2013, the only 3-team share in NHC soccer history came on the girls' side between Carroll, DeKalb, and Homestead. But in the very next year, DeKalb boys, Carroll girls won the last ever conference championships for soccer. In total, Homestead won 16 boys titles. Carroll won 7 of them. On the girls' side, Homestead won 17 times. Carroll won 6 girls' soccer championships. Now for the sport of volleyball. Belmont's streak of 6 straight conference titles was snapped by Carroll. But after Belmont reclaimed the title in 2013, Carroll won the last one the very next year in 2014. In total, Belmont won the conference championship 18 times. Holy cow. And when the NE8 began in 2015, that success for the Belmont Braves, that is going to come with them in the NE8, to which is still a successful program today. On the gridiron, in 2013, New Haven snapped Homestead's reign of 6 straight conference titles. They won their first conference championship for football since 1987. The very next year, Carroll won the final NHC football title, their first conference championship since 1979. Holy cow. And to think Carroll's success would only get better as they get to the SAC. In total, Homestead won it 16 times, DeKalb 6, East Noble won it 5 times. Now we go to basketball. Between 2007 and 2013, Norwell won at least a share of the NHC girls basketball title 6 times. Homestead won the final girls basketball titles in 2014 and 15. We'll talk about Homestead in just a minute. Homestead capped off the conference's run in boys basketball by winning 5 of the final 6 conference titles between 2010 and 2015. Homestead shared the conference in 2010 and 2013. In total, we start off with the girls. Columbia City won it 7 times. Carroll, Homestead, and Norwell each won 6 times. On the boys' side, Homestead and East Noble won it 7 times, DeKalb 6 times, and Carroll won it 5 times. And to cap off the NHC's run in basketball, we got to talk about Homestead because both the boys and girls would go on to represent their school in the state finals. First, we begin with girls basketball. Homestead, led by Carissa McLaughlin, number 12 on the screen here. They had Madison Parker on that team. They had Lindley Kistler on that team. Jasmine Geist on that team. This was a loaded team, nationally ranked in girls basketball, coached by Rod Parker himself, who's still coaching Homestead to this day. And on the season, 26-3, undefeated in conference play. They, in their own sectional, they dominated Jay County. In the Kokomo Regional, dominated both Snyder and Noblesville. And then the Crown Point semi-state defeated Merrillville 66-52. But unfortunately, destiny was not in the cards of Homestead girls basketball that year. They fell 62-56 to Columbus North. And Homestead, though, however, would go on to find that redemption in 2017 when Carissa McLaughlin, in her senior year, led Homestead to the state championship in overtime, to which Carissa would go on to have a decorated collegiate basketball career at Purdue and Marquette. Lindley Kistler would play college basketball initially with IPFW / Purdue Fort Wayne, and later with St. Francis. Jasmine Geist would have Division I collegiate basketball career. Madison Parker would play college basketball at Bowling Green, I believe. A lot of Homestead players would have success at the next level. On the boys' side, led by the big man himself, Caleb Swanigan, number 50. Coach Chris Johnson was still a part of this team by this point, the winningest coach in the history of Homestead basketball. On the season, they were 29-2, undefeated in conference play. In the Wayne Sectional, they once again defeated Jay County 51-35. In the Marion Regional, they defeated rival Carroll by 2 points and Carmel by 4 to win the regional, very, very pivotal regional championship for the program. And then the Huntington North semi-state defeated a very talented South Bend Riley team 90-69 to reach the state finals, hosted by Bankers Life Fieldhouse, and defeated Evansville Rights in a classic showdown 91-90 in overtime. Dana Batt won the Mental Attitude Award. And then earlier that year in 2015 for girls for gymnastics, Madison Moore won that same award that same winter but for a different sport. I mentioned this because this is the last time I'll mention gymnastics in this video. Caleb Swan would go on to have a decorated career at Purdue, leading Purdue to multiple championships in the Big Ten and a couple runs in the March Madness, although not at the ultimate goal of reaching the national championship game. Some guy by the name of Brandon Dornell would represent Homestead and would go on to be a very successful college basketball player at Spring Arbor in the NAIA, and he would go on to coach for East Noble, to which he still is to this day. We now go to wrestling. In 2014, East Noble's Garrett Pepple, as you can see on the screen, he was a 113-pound runner-up, falling to Franklin's DJ Smith 5-3. In the winter of 2015, Carroll won the final conference wrestling title with a three-peat and their 4th championship in 5 years. In total, Belmont won the conference championship 21 times. Carroll won it 4. Let that sink in for a minute. But going back to Pepple, he would cap off the NHC's run in wrestling by winning the 113-pound state championship in the winter of 2015 by defeating Penn's Drew Hildebrandt in a 5-2 decision. Garrett is going to go on to have a nice collegiate career in the Big Ten, representing Indiana and Michigan State. Kind of one of the most decorated athletes in the history of East Snowball. We get to tennis. Over 90% of all NHC tennis titles, boys and girls, went to Homestead. However, it was Carroll that won the last tennis titles. Carroll boys won 4 straight from 2011 to 14, including a share with Homestead in 2013. Carroll girls won it 4 straight times from 2012 to 15. In track, 2013, Carroll won their 6th consecutive girls track championship. The final 2 girls track titles went to Belmont in 2014 and Homestead in 2015. Holly Hankerson of Belmont won the Mental Attitude Award in 2014. And then Carroll boys track won their 4th straight NHC title in 2015, as you can see on the slide here. In total for boys, Carroll won it 12 times, Homestead 11 times in boys track. On girls track, Homestead won it 15 times, Carroll 7. And while these 2 schools no longer play in a conference, Carroll and Homestead's dominance in track will continue as an independent to this day. And just like the NEIC, we have to last, but certainly not least, discuss baseball and softball. In 2015, DeKalb, just like when it started in 1990, they would win the final conference softball championship. That was a very good DeKalb team. That was their first in 5 years. New Haven and Norwell baseball shared the very last ever NHC championship. In total for softball, DeKalb won it 12 times, Columbia City 7 times, Homestead 6. For baseball, Carroll won it 13 times, DeKalb 7, Norwell and Homestead each won it 5 times for baseball. So now we're at the point where we have to discuss the timeline on the fall of the Northeast Hoosier Conference. Now, if you want a soapy, very dramatic situation, unfortunately, you're not going to like this section because this one was not nearly as difficult, I guess to say, as it was with the NEIAC, because I think a lot of these schools in that conference knew where it was heading. On April 12, 2013, the NHC members considered moving conferences. I think they knew well before 2013 that this was going in that direction, and by this point, they decided to announce that they were considering to move on from the NHC. Just 6 days later, the NHC schools voted in favor of dissolving the conference. There were rumors at one point that the conference might dissolve earlier, but they kept it going. But by this point in 2013, they felt the inevitable was happening for the Northeast Hoosier Conference. On June 7th of the same year, Huntington North out of the North Central Conference and Leo out of the Allen County Athletic Conference were approved to join the new conference. On December 20th, 2013, after many months of rumors that Carroll Homestead may have to go independent for all sports, they accepted an invitation to join the SAC for football and basketball. As you would soon find out, and if you follow Carroll Homestead, you will realize that Carroll Homestead are no longer members of the SAC, are not members of the SAC in all the other sports. Well, that's because that was how the situation unfolded, to which they would only join as football and basketball members, but for the rest of their sports, they would have to become independent. And to this point, while scheduling remains to be difficult for both Carroll and Homestead, I think they have performed just fine on the other sports, and I think they would agree as well. And on April 15th, 2015, over a year and a half later, the new conference name, the Northeast 8, was unveiled. Now, we're going to take a look at a chart here, and this is kind of a rough estimation of why the NHC dissolved. As you can see in 1980, about 9 years prior to the NHC forming, you could see there was a lot of parity in terms of enrollment for the member schools that would become a member of the NHC. Remember, at this point, Carroll and Norwell were still members of the ACAC by that point. But as you could see, enrollment was pretty balanced, even though Homestead always had the majority of those kids. 1990, you could see the rise of Homestead in terms of its enrollment expanding. Carroll slowly but surely would grow as the years go along. In 2000, you could see a substantial change for Carroll in 2000. And then by 2010, you can see the enrollment numbers for the smaller schools starting to decline. Carroll Homestead continues to exponentially grow. And by that point, I think everybody knew and agreed upon that a change within the conference needed to be made. And I bet you Carroll Homestead respected the heck out of the NHC. They respect the heck out of these schools. The NHC was universally praised for being a very competitive conference and a conference of champions. When we talk about conference of champions in Northeast Indiana, the Northeast Hoosier Conference can certainly be called the conference of champions because of how much state tournament success many of these schools had in the NHC. Unfortunately, the business numbers of the schools, enrollment numbers became a bit of a startling reality. And as of 2024, as you can see here, Carroll actually has more students right now than Homestead. And so you can see why the decision was made in 2013 to move forward with a new conference and a shakeup in conference alignment. And as you can see on the screen, this is the current logo of the Northeast state. So what is the lasting impact? The NHC became the last 260 area conference to formally dissolve. While there have been rumors of the ACAC maybe looking to dissolve at one point or another, the Allen County Athletic Conference continues to survive to this day as of 2024. It set the stage for future conference realignment amongst the rest of the area's schools, and even to this day, you're still seeing conversations about what could happen with conference realignment for the next 5 to 10 years. And the Northeast 8 became a defining moment in the changing of the times in conference realignment. And last but certainly not least, from this point forward, the NE8 became the rightful successor to the NHC with a healthy run of success. And we will talk about that healthy run of success in our next video when we talk about the first 10 years in the history of the Northeast 8. We are finally here. The next time you see this video, we will talk about the Northeast 8. Beautiful time to talk about the history of the NE8. It's healthy, it's balanced, it's competitive, it's exciting. Each of these 8 schools have done something special at one point or another. It is seen as one of the most successful conferences in all of Indiana, and it's a conference with a lot of history that's shown from its NEIC years and the NHC. It continues in the Northeast states. So that's going to do it here on the history of the Northeast Hoosier Conference. I hope you enjoy this video. Hit that subscribe button. Hit this like button on both this video and the first part of the NHC video. Let YouTube know that the NHC Sports is a destination for you, the local sports fan. Thank you. Have a good day.